When I think of a large flagship luxury sedan, the Mercedes-Benz S-Class quickly comes to mind. This is the luxury sedan in which all other luxury brands benchmark theirs against. Yes, I'm talking about even brands like Rolls-Royce and Bentley stand up and take notice whenever Mercedes-Benz comes out with a new version of the S-Class. Now, of course, last year, Mercedes did just that with the completely redesigned 2021 model, now in its 7th generation. And for 2022, there are very little changes to the S-Class. However, this week, the company has loaned me this 2022 S500. That's right, the 500 name is back. It's now the base version of the S-Class. And instead of the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 that I tested last year, under the hood, we have an electrified, turbocharged, and supercharged 3-liter inline 6. That's right, a straight 6-cylinder engine is back, making about 429 horsepower. So if you guys have been looking for the ultimate large luxury sedan and you've had your eye on an S-Class but really don't need to spend the money for the V8, how does the 2022 S500 with its 6-cylinder stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So for 2022, Mercedes-Benz continues to only offer 2 powertrains in the S-Class. I'm hoping that more options will show up very soon, particularly the AMG model. But for those of you who really want the base version, you don't necessarily need a V8. Let's go ahead and take a look at this straight 6-cylinder engine. Now, if you guys have had any time, of course, with some of the AMG 43 models, this powertrain is going to look very familiar. Now let me quickly clarify, I meant to say AMG 53 models because this is the same powertrain that you'll find in something like the CLS 53. It's the company's 3-liter turbocharged, supercharged, and electrified. It's a mild hybrid inline 6-cylinder engine. That's right, Mercedes decided to develop a completely new inline 6 a couple of years ago, and I'm really glad that they did because it's among the smoothest and most modern 6-cylinders that you can find in the internal combustion engine world. It makes 429 horsepower, which is only about 67 less versus the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 that you find in the S580, and torque is 384 pound-feet. That's about 130-ish pound-feet less than the V8. So obviously, with the V8, you're going to get substantially more low-end torque, but this mild hybrid electrified supercharged turbocharged 6-cylinder is certainly no slouch. It's augmented by a 48-volt mild hybrid system, which basically will add an extra 21 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque, and in certain moments where it doesn't combine with the engine's output. It all goes out through a 9-speed automatic transmission, and every S-Class this year for this generation is all-wheel drive. There is no rear-wheel drive model, at least not for America. There are rumors, of course, of Mercedes possibly doing a plug-in hybrid version again. Of course, we can expect an AMG version. If you're looking for an all-electric version, you may as well go look at the EQS, which is essentially the electric version of the S-Class, although they don't technically share the same platform. Now, as I mentioned earlier, all-wheel drive is standard, and because this new engine is a lot more efficient with its mild hybrid system, it's rated to get 21 in the city and 30 on the highway. That's an increase of 4 mpg over the V8 version and way better efficiency than the old S550 with its 4.7-liter V8. As this one sits, it weighs in at around 4,700 pounds. It's about 200 pounds lighter versus the old V8, and Mercedes says this should get to 60 in about 4.9 seconds. So it's only about a half a second slower versus the V8. We'll test that, of course, when we get this vehicle out on the road. Now, let me shut the hood and show you guys the rest of the styling of this vehicle. Now, as you guys know, this is known internally by Mercedes-Benz as the W223 generation. Of course, the old one was the W222. And I really like what Mercedes has done here with the styling. I mean, of course, it's instantly recognizable as a Mercedes, but you can also tell this is the flagship, the pinnacle of the Mercedes-Benz family. And compared to the EQS, this is such a beautiful looking car that really has a stately appearance to it because especially of that long nose and the traditional hood ornament that you get. This is only what you're going to find on S-Class models. You really can tell just how long this hood is, of course, to make room for an available V12 engine that you can still get in the Maybach version of this car. Now, my tester has the AMG body style packaging, although it doesn't have the AMG specific grille. You can see it still kind of has more of the luxury oriented grille. This is where you'll find the sensors and cameras for the Distronic adaptive cruise control. And then over here, you can see the headlights. They're full LED design. Surprised to see that there are no sequential LED turn signals, but I really like this multi-beam full LED headlight. This selenite gray exterior certainly looks nice. The AMG body styling adds kind of the lower front splitter with the black accents, a couple of functional vents over here, of course, and you have some active grille shutters and whatnot. And overall, basically, this is the design language we're going to be seeing on the new C-Class. The new E-Class kind of adopted this when they refreshed it as well. So Mercedes basically shows off their newest and latest technology in the S-Class, and then it all kind of trickles down into the rest of the models. Now, looking at the rest of the side profile here, you can see this is a big car. Mercedes only offers it in the long wheelbase version here in America, which means we have a 126.6-inch long wheelbase and a 208.7-inch overall length. Now, if that's too short, you can also buy the Maybach version of this car, which will increase it by about 7 inches in the wheelbase and the overall length. That'll basically give you all the space in the rear seat. My tester has these 20-inch wheels you can see have kind of like a darker gray finish. You can also get either a 19, 20, or a 21-inch wheel. You can see for the wintertime, Mercedes has so graciously fitted this with Pirelli Soto Zero winter tires, which are nice. You can see the brakes are very large. They're cross-drilled. You can have like a 6-piston caliper design that's fixed in the front. Again, big, heavy vehicle, you're gonna need that. And then my tester, of course, has the optional E-Active Body Control suspension, which on top of the Airmatic suspension, which this vehicle comes standard with, the E-Active Body Control will essentially lean the vehicle in corners to help it handle better, to help keep the body flat. It doesn't have that ability to kind of do that stuck free mode or get out of the sand mode that you find on like a GLS or the GLE when they first offered it. But of course, it's gonna make the ride quality better. We'll talk about that later on during the driving scene. Now you can see, being the AMG line, you have, with the night package, you also have this kind of black painted mirror. A panoramic sunroof is gonna be standard on all S-Classes, which you kind of expect that. There's a lot of chrome all over this vehicle. And then you can see my tester also has the active rear steering. Now, if you check that option for an extra $1,000 or so, or $1,300, this will essentially allow the rear wheels to turn up to 4.5 degrees at low speeds in the opposite direction, or 4.5 degrees in the same direction, depending on how fast you're going. This will help, again, shrink the turning radius of this car, which it really makes a noticeable difference. The turning radius can be similar to an A-Class. However, keep in mind, the AMG line does not include the 10-inch degree of turn, which you can get on the executive line with the smaller wheels and tires. Now you can see here, these are the pop-out style door handles, which again, they pop out whenever you have the key and you approach the vehicle, and if you lock it, it's gonna retract back in. Very nice design. You'll find that same door handle on the EQS as well. And then looking at the rear, you can see the design of the rear certainly looks very traditional, very elegant, very stately. I love these kind of very interesting looking full LED taillights, which again, I like how they're amber and they change color from red to amber, but no sequentials. That would have been nice to find. You can see there's the 4Matic badge with some more chrome. There's an S500 badge. Again, that 500 does not mean it has a 5-liter V8. Mercedes hasn't been doing that for quite some time. And then down here, you can see the exhaust system is integrated into the rear diffuser, which definitely looks nice. Would have liked to see the chrome possibly blacked out with the night package, but maybe that's something you can add from the aftermarket or dealer. Opening up the trunk, as typical, there is a power opening and closing trunk. And in terms of the space back here, you get around 12.8 cubic feet of space. 12.8 isn't a lot, actually. I actually expected this vehicle to have more. Keep in mind, this space can be intruded even more if you guys go for the refrigerator. That's like an option, which will take up more space in the trunk. But regardless, it's a well-finished trunk. You have hinges that don't crush your cargo. And then you can see, when you open this up, there is a little bit of storage underneath this floor, no spare tire and whatnot, but it is still a very usable and practical vehicle. So now let's move on to the best part about the brand new S-Class, and that's the beautifully sumptuous interior with all of the tech features. Before we get inside, let me first show you guys the key fob for the vehicle. Of course, this is the newest Mercedes key fob. You should be able to also access the vehicle through the Mercedes Me app, where you can probably use the remote start. There is no remote start on the fob itself, but the fob feels nice and heavy. It also is a nice looking design, so keep in mind this is the newer Mercedes-Benz key fob. Now, as you see here, when I lock the vehicle, the door handles, they retract. The mirrors, they also electrically fold in. As I approach the vehicle here, you can see I didn't really approach from too far, but if I kind of just touch this area here, that will unlock the vehicle and that will allow the door handle to pop out, which again, very Tesla-esque. This is the first Mercedes to get this design. And then check out this interior, guys. This beautiful gray exterior is complemented by this gorgeous red interior. This leather interior is $5,500 extra. That's right, $5,500 extra for this beautiful quilted leather with this kind of upgraded Napa leather feel with the contrasting piping, the red stitching, this wonderful pillow here that also allows you to move it up and down. The seats adjust in like 24 different ways. They are heated, ventilated, and massaging, and you have 3-person memory on the driver, the front passenger, and on the back seats as well, along with this gorgeous door panel. You can see the door panel has real leather stitching here. You have quilted leather here with a diamond pattern, more soft padded area here, piano black plastic, real aluminum trim. Metal speakers, of course, for the 15-speaker Burmester sound system. My tester has the 3D Burmester sound system. There's an optional $6,000 4D 30-speaker Burmester, which sadly I haven't had a chance to hear, but this bass version already sounds great. There's even soft leather here on the lower portion. You can see it's completely stitched leather with more metal accented buttons. The Mercedes logo lights up. The AMG model also has those AMG mats. This just makes a really great first impression, and it really reminds you you're driving a special vehicle when you first open the door. Now, getting inside, you can see the step-in is definitely low. It's very typical of a sedan. This car does have that air suspension where you can raise and lower the vehicle to help you get in and out of the car a little bit. It's not going to be like an SUV, like a GLS, but when you shut the door, you can see this is one area that I noticed. The door doesn't really have, it's a really far reach when it's completely open, and you kind of have to stick your hand in here. I know there are some models that I've tested where I can push a button that'll close the door for me, but you have to still grab the door here. But once you grab it and shut it, it has a beautifully solid sounding thunk, and you don't even have to slam it. All you have to do is just kind of just click it, and that will automatically soft close the doors. You can see the beautiful ambient lighting in this vehicle. It looks even more stunning at night, and it's active ambient lighting. This is the first vehicle from Mercedes to get that. Now, getting inside the vehicle, the start stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. The steering wheel sort of blocks it with the shifter, but push the button here, you can see everything just kind of whirs to life in this car because it is a mild hybrid. It's got that 48-volt hybrid system. There isn't a traditional starter noise. What you do get, of course, are massive displays. You have a 12.3-inch display here and an even larger 12.8-inch display here. You can see it's now oriented in a tablet-style display. It's a portrait style as opposed to the landscape. If you guys remember the previous generation, you had two screens, two 12-inch screens here that made a 24-inch display. This definitely looks a little bit more traditional in a sense for me. I actually really liked the wall of screens in the previous generation, but you can see the new infotainment system here is just worlds better, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Now, in terms of the materials, you can see beautiful real leather stitching here on the upper portion. You have these metal covers here. These are full metal, not covers, they're full metal vents right here. You can see they even have a nice satisfying click. I love that. Which really, again, adds that impression of quality. There's a little button here with these LED lights. If you push this button, this actually adjusts how much airflow comes out of the vents. When it's not illuminated at all, there's no airflow, and then you kind of adjust it in different increments. Same thing on the other side. That was a really interesting touch. You can also find the same thing on the driver and the passenger side with these, again, vents that allow you to adjust that, which is really cool. Your headlight controls are now over here as opposed to on the stock, which you'll find your windshield wiper stock or windshield wiper controls here on this side where you typically would find the headrest. Power mirror controls, of course, are over here. Power folding mirrors. You have heated and ventilated seats. You can also adjust the passenger side from this side. And then these seat controls, still not really a fan of these. Instead of them actually moving, they're actually just touch sensitive. So you kind of just have to put a little pressure and that will adjust the seat forward and back or adjust the recline. I just preferred the button that actually moved. I don't know why Mercedes had to get rid of that. It just kind of made the system worse. So I think that was kind of a backward step. Now over here on the steering wheel, you can see the AMG model has this lovely 3-spoke design with a lot of piano black plastic here. I'm not sure I'm in love with the steering wheel design. More touch sensitive buttons here, which again, kind of gets some getting used to, but you can adjust basically the screen from over here using this touchpad and then use this side here to adjust that screen using this touchpad here. All of it can be a little overly complicated and it takes a little bit to get used to. Power tilt and telescoping wheel. There's a heated wheel as well. You have to find the button over here and then kind of flip this knob forward and back. It'll tell you in the screen as well as a little light that lights up there whether the heated wheel is on or off. There's a wonderful augmented reality 3D heads-up display along with a 3D effect on the actual instrument cluster. I first saw this on the Genesis G80 and GV80, so it's great to see Mercedes also doing the same thing. You can also adjust and customize how you want this to look. You can see I can put it into a sport display here, which looks really cool. There's also an exclusive display here, which gets really bright in here. I've actually seen something like that in some Hyundai products. You can put the full-on GPS, the driver assistance, the service stuff in there. I actually prefer the classic look, and then you can kind of adjust what you want the center screen to have. So that's something, again, so many different ways you can customize this interior. It can be super overwhelming at first, but once you kind of get in and use it, you start to remember everything. Now you can see on this massive tablet, now if I put the vehicle in reverse, there's the full 360 camera, which also gives you a top-down view. Parking sensors, it has the ability to parallel park itself. You can also push this right here, and it gives you all these different views where it actually will allow you to encircle the car and see what's exactly around you. This is basically what I expect in a vehicle of this price caliber, but you can see amazing graphics. This is among the best that I've seen, and I've seen some really good stuff. So Mercedes really knows how to wow you with technology, and this vehicle is certainly no different. There is also wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. If I push that button here, my phone is also wirelessly connected. You can see it took a second there, but it shows a really beautiful display that has all your usual icons over there. There's also a home screen here that shows you your GPS and whatever's playing over there in your music. This is nice. It works really well. It's quick and snappy and responsive. Keep in mind the previous generation didn't even have a touchscreen. Now, going back out of the Apple CarPlay, hit the home display here. You can see this is where you can find all your usual sources. The comfort setting here is where I find myself going to a lot because I just want to always activate the massage feature. The seats also have this dynamic multi-contour function where if you're turning, the bolster will actually squeeze on the left or the right depending on the direction you're turning to give you a little bit more of a hugging effect. You can also adjust the lumbar in any way that you want. Along with this kind of energizing comfort feature. Going to the climate menu here, you can also access not just the climate controls, you can also adjust the air quality where there's an ionization in this vehicle, and there's also a fragrance where this vehicle wafts a perfume and it smells fantastic. It even tells you the air quality in the interior as well as the exterior, I believe. It's just freaking fantastic. This is basically what you expect with this level of technology. There's also a fingerprint reader right down here. You can also access your drive mode selector over here. You can see there's 6 different drive modes along with an individual setting. We'll talk about all the different drive modes and how they feel when we go into the test drive. Obviously, Sport Plus is the most aggressive. There's also an individual. Curve is because I have the Air Active Body Control, the E-Active Body Control. That will basically lean the vehicle suspension in the same direction as the turns to help, of course, keep the vehicles flat when cornering. Push that car button here. You can access some quicker displays from the heads-up display. You can raise the air suspension, of course. You can access manual shifting. You can turn on and off the steering assist, the lane departure, or the active lane keep assist, all that stuff. So this can be a little intimidating at first, but once you get the hang of it, it actually is relatively easy to use. The actual Mercedes GPS, if I go here to GPS, is certainly very nice. It's very quick and responsive and snappy. It also allows you to use the voice commands as well, which surprisingly I keep saying the M word and it's actually not coming up yet. But you can also put the GPS here or use the GPS here. I imagine most of you will end up using the CarPlay GPS anyways. That's typical with a lot of these newer cars. There's also an infographic display here that shows you your average fuel consumption. It shows you the brake and accelerator and the suspension and whatnot. You can also see how much power the engine is making, the boost pressure from the turbos, which of course is really cool to see. Down here in the center console, you can see a lot of piano black plastic, which does get a lot of fingerprint marks and scratches. So don't really like this. I love this kind of $850 carbon fiber silver aluminum weave texture combination. That looks fantastic with the red. But open this up, you can see wireless phone charging pad, 2 USB-C charging ports, cup holders here. You can also get heated and ventilated or heated and cooled cup holders to keep your drinks cold or hot, which is lovely. And then when you want to close this, just push that button here, it closes that. Opening up this, as you can see, there's 2 more USB ports in there. There's a total of 8 in this car, I believe. And then a nice size storage area over there, which is great. Opening up the glove compartment, you can see it is huge, massive. That's where the fragrance for the perfume lives for the air purifier system. And then above me, you can see there's lots of more buttons over here. There's all ambient lighting, of course, in this cabin. You can also use this touch sensitive control to open up the panoramic sunroof, sunshade, and then open it up completely, which is great. More beautiful ambient interior lighting. And these seats, I'm not even gonna tell you guys, they are comfortable. They are super comfortable, super adjustable. Love the soft quilted leather. I mean, they better be comfortable for over $5,000. So overall, the cabin, lots to talk about. Impressive technology, overwhelming amounts of luxury in this vehicle, luxury and technology. But it's pretty much what you expect. And once you kind of sit in this car and get the hang of it, you'll know how to use everything. And it really just reminds you that you're driving something incredibly special. So this is a Mercedes-Benz S-Class, so let's go ahead and show you guys what the back seat is like. Now keep in mind, my AMG line tester does not have the executive rear seat package that you get with the executive line, which means we don't have things like monitors back here. We also don't have the massaging back seats, but my tester does have for about $3,800 the warmth and comfort package, which means we have heated and cooled rear seats, this beautiful pillow over here, and the rear seats also have a memory function, 3-person memory on both sides, and they also recline and move forward and back, which is great. The rear door panels also are just as beautiful and intricately designed as the front door panels with the same quilted leather leather, the beautiful red, the piano black, that cool silver carbon fiber look trim, these touch sensitive controls for the adjustments, of course, and then you have these power retractable peasant blockers or sunshades. It's also power on the rear and of course on the roof. This is all, of course, going to give you the whole experience that you expect from a Mercedes-Benz S-Class. Now getting inside, there is a massive 43.8 inches of legroom back here. That's right, almost 44 inches makes this one of the largest back seats in the segment. It makes a Lexus LS feel like a cramped Toyota Camry in comparison.
Something went wrong.
And of course, that was the Hey Mercedes interrupting me as usual, but now let me get back here and shut the door.
Sorry, something went wrong.
Cancel. Once you shut the door, you can see there is a soft close function. So if I just kind of click the door here, it will automatically shut for me. And you can see, look at this beautiful interior ambient lighting. Remember, this is active ambient lighting, which means if there's somebody in your blind spot and I go to signal, it actually will flash the interior lighting to let me know there's somebody there. It just looks gorgeous. You can also change the color. I have it in the multicolor animation right now, which is going to cycle between like a pink and a purple hue. You can also change it to whatever you'd like. And then of course, with 43.8 inches of legroom back here, 43.8, somebody like me can essentially just fall asleep back here and just feel like you're sitting in a first class jet. Now, of course, keep in mind, I don't have the executive line, which means there's a big open space here. That's for the quad zone automatic climate control, which my tester is lacking that. Instead, I have these rear seat air vents here with this really interesting design where it's actually power. This is actually to shut the air vent. You can see it shuts down in increments. So you can see where all three are lit up. That's the most air, medium air, little air, and then of course no air. This is a really cool design. Also love the metal vents. They have a very nice, satisfying click. Open this up, you can see there is two USB-C charging ports, an actual power outlet over here, which is nice to have. But it does look really sad here, of course, with the open space for the 4-zone climate control. That's something you can get with the executive line. You can see over here, there's another rear seat air vent, which has a kind of manual style to open and close the vent. Surprised they didn't go with a full power like they did over in the center console. But the rest of this cabin, you can see there is literally LED lighting everywhere. There's a nice leather stitched grab handle over here. You can basically turn this on here via touch control or via a button where it has a reading light. There's also more, lights over here. The executive line model will probably have a mirror that comes down so you can, do your makeup or see how you look. These seats back here, you can see very comfortable and supportive, and they adjust multiple ways. I love the pillow back here, which you can also adjust the height. You can basically just kind of use this control here. You can see the rear seat will start to recline back. It does recline a little bit, but not as much as what you're gonna get from the executive package. You can see if I do that, you can also move the seat downward, but this will again eat into your legroom space. But I mean, with this incredibly long wheelbase, you can get pretty comfortable back here. Now let me fold this down here. You can see, fold this down. There's another empty space here because my tester doesn't have that executive line, which would give you wireless phone charging back here and an actual LCD display, along with two monitors here that essentially mimic what you have from the MBUX up front. Push this, you can see this looks like it's probably a place where you can put a cell phone, which right now it doesn't really look like much. Open this up here, you can see there's a little bit of storage over there. And then I'm surprised to see there is no cup holders back here. Like actually, there are no cup holders over here, which makes me wonder, are there any if you don't go for the executive line? There are some, storage cubbies here on the door pockets. You can see there's also an actual bottle holder over here. Keep in mind also with the upgraded rear seat, you can also have these pop-out metal tables that look like they came out of a first-class business jet. These buttons right here, if you can see, if I push this button, it actually will open and close the rear sunshade behind me, which is power. It really filters out a lot of light back here if you guys have everything closed. There's another switch right here on the door panel. If I push that, that'll open and close the rear sunshade over here, which again, this filters in a lot of light. There's a beautiful micro suede headliner back here, which really feels expensive, high quality. It always, of course, smells really nice in here. But overall, without the executive rear seat package, what it is lacking for me is cup holders back here. I'm actually really surprised. Oh, actually, there we go. It was stuck. There's the cup holders over here. I was wondering, I figured there were, but this was kind of stuck for a second. But to open it, you have to kind of push it in again, and that reveals the cup holders. These are very, of course, over-engineered in typical German car fashion, but overall the back seat, even though it is missing the highest upgrade to the rear seat package, tons of room, tons of space, beautiful ambient lighting, and it really just makes you feel like you're in a special car. All right, so here we are in the fancy new Mercedes-Benz S-Class. I actually haven't had a chance to get behind the wheel of this vehicle since I first drove it when I traveled to New Jersey, then drove up to Rhode Island in the S580. Never actually got a chance to get into the S500. Remember, this 500 is back. It's now the base engine. And instead of a V8, 500s used to have a V8. They now have a 3-liter turbocharged and supercharged inline 6. Mercedes is back to an inline 6, but 429 horsepower is certainly nothing to sneeze at. And Mercedes says this vehicle should get to 60 in about 4.9 seconds, which is insane considering this is the base model. So now that I've got it back home, let's go ahead and see if that's actually the case. We're gonna have it in Sport Plus, so we're gonna floor it. Super smooth, love that sound. And I just got 0 to 60 in 4.64 seconds. This is the base model. Mercedes says 4.9. Typical German fashion, they are very conservative. So it doesn't surprise me that this car is quicker than their claim. Keep in mind, the V8 model is rated to be about a half a second faster than this. 4.4, I believe, for that model. So this is pretty close to what Mercedes claims for the V8 version, and you're saving a good chunk of money by going with the straight 6. So that's something to keep in mind if you guys, want to get an S-Class, but you don't think it's necessary to go to the V8. I mean, what you are missing essentially is the sound of those 8 cylinders. I mean, Mercedes' 4-liter bi-turbo V8 is a fantastic powertrain, so how could you not want that? But I have to say, this straight 6, it's nice to see Benz back in the straight 6 game. Let's try it one more time here. It feels good off the line. No launch control, but brake torquing really makes a difference, and I just got 4.8 seconds there. So 4.64, 4.8, 4.7 seconds. That is plenty fast. It's essentially the same performance that you got out of the previous generation, the W222. That model would probably do it in about 4.7 seconds as well. And that was the S550, which had a 4.7 liter twin turbo V8, which had actually surprisingly only 20 more horsepower than this. This car also is smidge lighter. It's about 200 pounds lighter. And you really notice that. My tester with the AMG line package includes the more aggressive front and rear bumper design. I have 20-inch wheels on my tester, and I also have the option for the rear axle steering, which will steer up to 4.5 degrees. Not quite as strong or as sharp as the 10 degrees that you get with the executive line package with the smaller wheels and tires, or with the smaller wheels and tires. But you really notice when I start to turn the wheel in this car, you can feel that the rear actually will steer in the same direction as the front wheels to give you that forward stability, which is, really nice in a vehicle like this. It also will help to shorten the turning radius considerably when you guys are making U-turns. Mercedes says if you have the 10-degree axle rear steering, it'll actually shorten the turning radius to something smaller, to a shorter distance versus, which is comparable to an A-Class, their smallest sedan. So the S-Class very much shrinks when you get behind the wheel, and it's one of the reasons why people love the S-Class. Even though you essentially buy this car and you love to be driven around in this car, it's nice to know that even the base 500 can, you can enjoy driving this car even in the base form. Keep in mind, we haven't even seen the AMG models yet, so I'm really excited to see what Mercedes is cooking up with the AMG versions of this car. But see, turning here, you can really put your foot down. Listen to how smooth and effortless this feels. We've got that 9-speed automatic transmission. This is, of course, a Mercedes design transmission. It's smooth, it's quick to respond, it's got paddles on the wheel. In sport mode, it really knows how to, shift very quickly, give you, a lower gear whenever my foot calls for it. And it's just so smooth, even in Sport Plus. I could drive it in Sport Plus all the time, honestly, in this mode, but let's go ahead and back it down to Sport here and see if this makes a slight difference. I also, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to change the gauges here to the more classic looking gauge, just because I like the way this also looks as well. The Sport can get a little busy. You can see you have a traditional tack and a traditional speedo. It also kind of changes the look of the OLED display over here. But in this moment here, you really can tell the rear axle steering doing its job. Put my foot down here. In Sport Plus, it's not quite as eager to get into the first gear, but gosh, this is great. I mean, this car is turbocharged, it's supercharged with an electric compressor, and it has a 48-volt mild hybrid system. That mild hybrid system adds an extra 21 horsepower and 148 pound-feet of torque, not together with the gas engine, but in certain instances. And you really notice how effortless and smooth this powertrain is. Like, It doesn't have any turbo lag. I mean, this is the best it's gonna be for a modern gas internal combustion engine. And you know, driving the S-Class just kind of makes you feel special. That lovely three-pointed star that's just floating right there in front of me. It's something that only the S-Class has. So if you guys, you know, want that floating three-pointed star, you have to buy something with an S-Class badge on it. Although the EQS does not have it for aerodynamic purposes. But the ride quality, let's talk a little bit about that, because I'm gonna go into its comfort setting here. There's actually also a curve mode, because my tester also has the E-Active Body Control for $6,500. I first tested the system out in a GLS and a GLE. This essentially will allow the air suspension to lean in the corners, kind of like the way a bicycle or a motorcyclist would do when they're going around some sharp corners. It essentially helps to counteract any body lean, and it helps to shrink the vehicle considerably. This is where I feel that same kind of plantedness that I felt in their SUVs. Of course, in the S-Class now I'm in an SUV, there's like no, or in a sedan, there's like no body lean in this car. It's insane considering how softly sprung this car is. And my tester is rolling on these 20-inch wheels on these Pirelli Soto Zero winter tires, because it is 47 degrees outside. It is so quiet in here. Like bloody quiet, like insanely quiet. It's essentially what I expect from a vehicle that wears the three-pointed star badge, but this is also, remember, the pinnacle of Mercedes. And this isn't even the most expensive. Like, this isn't the Maybach version of the S-Class. I can't even imagine what that one's like, but going over corners here, no body lean whatsoever. The vehicle just kind of steers and drives and handles like a much smaller car. The ride is so cushy and pillowy. I'm not entirely sure if it's like Rolls-Royce Magic Carpet ride, but it's pretty damn close. And it also doesn't cost, you know, $500,000 like a Rolls-Royce does. So you could actually kind of look at this car as almost like a bargain. S-Classes have always been, you know, the pinnacle of luxury sedans that everybody benchmarks against. Even Bentley and Rolls-Royce will look at the latest S-Class and they'll benchmark this. I mean, this car feels expensive. It feels opulent. It feels exquisite. It feels well-engineered. And that's the whole reason why you buy an S-Class, because this is kind of a preview into the future of Mercedes. What does surprise me is how the EQS has their massive hyper screen. This car only has the 12.8-inch OLED screen here, which is fine. Let's go around here again. Really impressive in curve mode. This actually might handle better in curve mode versus in Sport Plus mode, which is really surprising to feel. But I just love driving this car. I mean, it's gonna be nice to obviously be driven around in it, but if you actually have to do the driving, this car is so just, it isolates you from the annoyances of the outside world. The glass is so thick on the outside that you barely hear any outside noise come through. The heads-up display here with its augmented reality also is fantastic. I love the way it projects, you know, directions and arrows and information onto the windshield. The steering also feels nice and responsive. It's light, doesn't give me much feel, but gosh, like around this right here, this curve, really, really interesting how it's so planted and so secure, and it really hides the weight of this car. I'm just purely shocked. But in terms of fuel economy, in my week's worth of testing, I actually averaged about 25 mpg. This is the most efficient S-Class model that you can buy now. 2130 mpg is 4 mpg better versus the V8, and you don't really give up that much in terms of performance. You do give up, of course, that V8 sound, but I'd argue that most people who buy an S-Class don't really care too much about, they just want about the noise of the engine. They just want it to be kind of in the background and effortless feeling. And this 6-cylinder model really surprised me. It feels effortless, it feels fast, it's very efficient, and it's very much worthy to be used in the S-Class badge, or in the S-Class name. So after spending a full week with the technologically advanced 2022 Mercedes-Benz S-Class, more specifically the S500, just like many, many decades ago, and it continues to do so, this vehicle remains one of the top luxury sedans that money can buy. Even though there are more prestigious brands you could buy from Rolls-Royce, from Bentley, there's also competition from BMW, Audi, and Porsche, of course. The S-Class has always been the king of the segment. It's the benchmark, and it's for one specific reason. Mercedes is always constantly innovating with this vehicle. As you guys saw with this new generation, the interior just simply blew my mind. From the 12.8-inch OLED display, the active ambient lighting, the augmented reality heads-up display, the E-Active body control, the massaging seats, the cushy leather, that automotive fragrance that it has, just everything about this interior just coddles you. It makes you feel special, even when you're sitting in the back seat, or if you're driving this vehicle with that hood ornament that kind of stands out there with the three-pointed star. This vehicle is still very much a car that everybody wants to aspire to own or aspire to be driven in, especially wealthy individuals. Mercedes says the retention rate of an S-Class is very, very high. People essentially will buy one of these, keep it for 3 years. When their lease is up, come back to the Mercedes dealership and return it and get a new version. And then when a new version comes out, they are in incredibly high demand. Now, obviously, I am very excited to get behind the wheel of a potential plug-in hybrid, but most specifically the AMG version. I really continue to love the exterior and interior design of this vehicle. Even though when I first saw it, I thought it was a little bit boring compared to the EQS, this is certainly a much more sexier looking car that has just more gravitas with the design. Yes, it technically doesn't have a couple of things that I would like. I'd like to see Mercedes eventually offer the Hyperscreen. And then this vehicle is still technically slower versus the AMG or versus the EQS model because it is all electric. But I was surprised to see the performance of this inline six. 0 to 60 in about 4.7 seconds is pretty impressive. It basically matches the performance of the old V8 while getting considerably better gas mileage. And I was a bit torn because this car here, if you guys are looking to buy one, starts at around $111,000. That is way more expensive, easily 10 to 20 grand more expensive than most of the competitors. I'm talking about a BMW 7 Series, an Audi A8, a Lexus LS, a Porsche Panamera. Now keep in mind, those vehicles can get more expensive when you add options, but the S-Class is among the most expensive, but it is still a bargain compared to cars like a Rolls-Royce Ghost or a Bentley Continental. Now, of course, if you guys want to go for the V8 model, the S580, that's going to start about at $117,000, so it's about $6,000 more. It's really not that much more in terms of money, especially if you guys can afford a six-figure car. My tester, of course, with the AMG package, the e-active body control, the extra color for the paint, the $5,000 for the upgraded red leather interior, the Burmester sound system. This one here, stickers for an eye-watering $140,000. 140 grand, and this isn't even an AMG model. It also doesn't have a V8. I would argue that this gets considerably better gas mileage. It showed over 500 miles on a full tank of gas. So if you plan to do a lot of road trips, you're going to be wanting to buy this because it gets way better gas mileage on the highway, especially compared to the V8. I will say that if you guys are looking at the V8 model, I basically built one and equipped it with all the same options that this one has, and it came out to be $144,000. So that $6,000 charge becomes $4,000 at the higher end when you guys are optioning in. Keep in mind, this one here is the AMG model. It's not available with that full-on executive package that you can get with the rear seat that basically adds massaging rear seats, and it also adds monitors back there. That one, get that if you guys plan to actually have a chauffeur to drive you around or you plan to be sitting in the back seat more. Overall, I'm still very impressed with the S-Class. This is the benchmark for so many reasons, and I can't wait to see what Mercedes-Benz does to follow this up with, of course, a full-on AMG model. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2022 Mercedes-Benz S500. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.